Our next panel will be talking about India towards Industry 4.0, the way forward, strategies adopted towards digitization and automation, staying competitive and relevant in today's evolving world through digitization, revenue stream innovation with digital transformation, and leveraging digital ecosystem to boost growth. I'll call upon the moderator, Ashwin Raguraman, co-founder and partner, Bharat Innovation Fund. Please step on the dais and most welcome, all the best. Please put your hands together for Ashwin Raguraman, co-founder and partner, Bharat Innovation Fund. He'll be the moderator of the session. I'll request the panelists also to step on the dais one by one. Manish Kishore, Global Head IT CIO, Wockhardt Limited. Please put your hands together and welcome him. Thank you. CDR Varun Gupta, Director Information Security and ICT, Indian Navy. Please put your hands together for him. Thank you, sir. Nilesh, Vohra, Vice President and Head of IT, India CTO, Vodafone Intelligent Solutions, Vodafone Group. Please put your hands together for him as well. Thank you.
All right.
Last we have Rohit Kalro, Head of Digital Transformation and Strategy Advisory, Thoughtworks India. Please put your hands together for all the panel members, and let's give our mic to Ashwin Raguraman, sir. Please take it over. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Just wonderful being here in Mumbai. A couple of us are from Bangalore, and we have a very exciting panel here. I'm really sort of honored to be sitting with these gentlemen here from very diverse backgrounds. We have somebody who's consulted on a lot of digital transformation projects. We have a commander from the Navy, the Indian Navy. We have somebody who's led captives and a lot of digital transformation from the captive side of things. And we have somebody who's implemented in the pharmaceutical space. So very, very diverse panel, and I'm going to do what I do best and my day job, which is asking questions, which typically I do to the startup world, but these are thought leaders who undertaken digital transformation journeys and helped implement those, and really looking forward to hearing their thoughts on the topic. Just in terms of numbers, there's a very recent survey that got published just a couple of days back, which surveyed about 509 IT leaders and decision makers from India as to how they see digital transformation progressing in India. And of these, 75% of them said that budgets going into digital transformation is going to increase next year as compared to this year or as compared to 2021 significantly. About 20% of them said we will at least maintain the same budgets, and that means 95% of them are saying that we're going to maintain budgets or increase budgets. And the estimate is that $85 billion is going to be spent on digital transformation annually by 2026 in India. So that's a massive budget, that's a lot of activity, and that's a lot of work, and we'll try to talk a little bit about some of the experiences these gentlemen have had. We ourselves, as an early stage venture capital fund, have companies in our portfolio that have and are helping enterprises undertake digital transformation journeys. For example, we have a company called Entropic Technology, which uses emotion AI to transform and to bring about disruption, digital disruption in the whole market research CX segment by using brainwave mapping and artificial intelligence to understand customers' emotional responses to every digital touch point. We have a company, for example, called Detect Technologies, which is doing something using computer vision in the oil and gas space and have customers like Shell and Exxon globally. So Indian startups are coming to the fore as well in enabling some of this. And but before I go to India Inc., I'd like to start with perhaps India itself, right? And we have seen some of the biggest digital transformation journeys happen with India with the UID project. One of my partners was the chief product officer at UID, and they've undertaken a massive digital transformation project. UPI is based on that, and we've seen the transformation it has brought in the whole payment space, right? But enough has been said about UID, enough has been spoken about UPI. What I want to ask Rohit, you, is what's next? And we are seeing other, for example, missions that are being taken like the ABDM, right, which is the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission. And so would an ABDM or can an ABM do to healthcare in India, which is very underserved and which is very fragmented, uh, what, let's say, a UPI has done to the payment space? And you yourself have been involved in projects around this, so would love to hear your experiences so far and your outlook for this. I think your mic may require.
Better now?
Yeah.
So I think democratization of all of these things that's the trend, because India has the next billion that probably is going to be the biggest market for any of the services that we have. So when you look at what UPI has done by bringing that into the fold, similarly, with the scale that we have and the impact that you want to drive in the nation, and you want to democratize, even break up the channels. You don't want monopolies. You want to go into rural, semi-urban sectors. So that's where I think a lot of the principles about making it more modular, not concentrating everything in one place, making it more modular, making it more composable. Microservices, in the software language, we talk about microservices. So you're breaking up that whole monolithic monopoly and breaking it into small parts, making it more accessible for people. Healthcare is a huge need. A lot of people don't get healthcare, so the more we open it up, the better it is. The same thing with e-commerce. Right now, the people that have been able to take advantage of e-commerce are the ones that are in the urban areas. The rural and semi-urban areas have not been brought into the fold. And it's not only the customers, but it's also the MSMEs or the mom and pop shops who can actually leverage all of this. So I think that's the trend that's going to happen. And I think the government is also making some smart moves in this space to open that up and to include a lot of our next billion. So I think these are right moves to make, and it's going to make the market bigger. It's going to make it more profitable for everybody as well.
Sure. So the power of democratization through digitalization, in a sense, and you spoke about e-commerce. I'm going to put this a similar question to Commander Varun on the ONDC side of things, which is the other big announcement. And do you see that? How do you see that impacting our lives on a daily basis?
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. ONDC, or the Open Network for Digital Commerce, is actually expected to be what UPI has been to digital payments. It's a great project, a great initiative, which plans to get all the buyers and the sellers who haven't got a representation on the big e-commerce apps to come onto the network and trade openly on an open architecture. Now, Indian economy, the transactions which are happening digitally are only 4.3% or something of what the total commerce is flowing in the country, and the small sellers are not having a representation. So it makes a lot of sense to have them come to a single platform where they are having visibility and the representation to come and sell their wares. Similarly, from the buyer's perspective also, it will be a great thing because you'll be able to see all the apps, so to say, or all the sellers from the local shops as well as the big players come onto the same network. ONDC has got one more segment, and that is about logistic players. So you will be able to see, so you will be able to, when I go as a buyer on an app, suppose Paytm is one of the partners, we go to Paytm and you type in ONDC and I select a product which I want, a water bottle, it will give me where all the water bottle is available. So it might be to a shop which is next to me, and if it is giving me a good deal, I'll take it. And that's the beauty of ONDC. And if I'm getting a delivery option, which is a cheaper option, which is closer home, I'll take it. So that is the beauty of ONDC, that ONDC promises to do something by getting, it will reduce the monopoly of the big players, of course, but it will eventually get everybody on the open grid, and it will be fair and transparent. So that's great about ONDC. ONDC is going to be inclusive and will drive the logistics. And also, overall, I think it's a great idea. And let's see how it flourishes.
So execution is important, right? But I'm hearing a common theme, the democratization theme between, what both of you all said. But just shifting tab a little bit, and Nilesh, you've been part of captive journey in India for a while, right? Uh, I think one would be, of course, if you can give a sense of where you're placed, your specific organization within the larger Vodafone group, but also talk a little bit about, when captives came into India, predominantly thought of as back office, right, and have evolved over time, and now becoming a change agent in actually doing a lot of digital transformation within their larger organizations and groups. Can you perhaps map out this journey and talk about how this transformation has happened from maybe being a cost center to now becoming a profit center, and the whole outlook changing, and how important are GCCs now in India in the context of their global groups?
Interesting question. Good morning, everyone. So I'll just try to clarify that I am part of Vodafone Intelligent Solution, which is part of Vodafone Group. It's a captive center for Vodafone. As Ashwin correctly mentioned, that it comes under the Global Capability Center GCC ecosystem. So let's go back to 20 years. Let's take us back to 20 years. What was a journey 25 years back when the big elephants, they started migrating the outsourcing jobs to India. I think if you look at the main intent, the main purpose of people basically to start outsourcing the projects back in India 25 years back, and started with Genpact days when 20 years back I was part of Genpact because of the cost of delivery. Right, so lot of outsourcing started happening because to optimize the cost of delivery at that point of time. There was not much of focus on the innovation or whatever the modernization and disruption what we are seeing right now when it comes to the innovation side. So those things were not there at that point of time. The focus was primarily on how we optimize the cost of delivery, and because of that, the rates, the labor cost was quite high in the States and the European region, and they started outsourcing jobs back in India. 10 years down the line after, from 2010, people have realized that, I think not just the people cost optimization, we should look forward for the technology cost optimization also, and that's how cloud came into picture, right? So traditionally, from standardization to consolidation, from consolidation to the virtualization, from virtualization to cloud layer, right? So 2010, 2015, that was the era where people start giving more focus towards the technology optimization or technology consolidation. Cloud was one of the beautiful examples, what we have all seen. Now, that era is also gone, and every time it's evolving, right? So 2015, 2020, I think just before pandemic, the focus was shifted, or I would say that it's elevated towards more innovative side, and that's where the digital transformation, the complete stack has kind of start emerging across enterprise ecosystem. And now, if you see that the focus was not there just to reduce the cost for the FTE. The focus was there just to be more innovative, more disruptive, and then we build our strong practices back in India, and that was the key theme. That's the key theme what we have been seeing right now. Now the capability upliftment standpoint also, I think people have realized that India has got huge appetite when it comes to the skill side. We have that agility, we have the innovative mindset, what we have been seeing right now in the space of blockchain, Web3, and there are other leading technologies where India is topping the chart out of these top 3 or top 4 charts. I'm sure that now world has realized that India has got huge potential, not just to reduce or optimize the cost from the FTE standpoint, but yes, we have enough capability and capacity to uplift our footprint on the innovation side. So captive have realized, and we are not restricted towards one area. So we are trying to be more innovative, more digital centric to enhance the efficiency of the entire business 360 degree. Yeah.
No, thanks. It's good that you mentioned Web3 and then other emerging technologies, AI, of course, automation, and I'm going to jump or deep dive into it with you and how this is playing about in the captive space subsequently in the next round maybe, but just shifting to you, Manish, in the pharmaceutical industry implemented a lot of digital transformation initiatives. And the way I see it is two sides of the coin, right? Bringing in efficiencies, cost efficiency specifically on supply chain and so on. But there's also the other side, and I think the earlier panel was talking about customer experience, revenue enhancement through some of that. So I'd love to hear perhaps accounts of how you've undertaken some of these transformation journeys, where you've seen bigger impact between on the revenue side, the cost efficiency side, and if you can talk about some of the challenges you faced as well and impact, that will be helpful.
Thank you, Ashwin. So probably pharmaceutical is the most regulated and compliance oriented because there's a patient safety attached to it. And whenever we talk about the customer facing side of it, we interact on daily basis with the pharmacies, the chemists and the e-pharmacies now. I think that has evolved. And it has been in last 3 years after the pandemic when this phase has started. Primarily like Wockhardt, we are 50-year-old and have been doing the business very traditionally. So just going back to our first session when Payal said discontinue is the common word that we have looked at and see what we should discontinue and what is the transformation that we need to bring in. So we have to start from within. What are the areas primarily which we'll have to look at and how we can adopt towards a value chain, not as a technology aspect of it. So whatever we are seeing as a manufacturing part, supply chain, the distribution angle of it. So how can we transform these areas, the sales and marketing of it? So we see what is the value creation, where can we generate revenue out? I think that is the primary factor that you'll have to look at and then evaluate the technologies, how effectively they can bring the change or transform your organization. And from there we evolved our next 5 years roadmap and see phase-wise, because it is not just the technology change, it is the cultural change within the organization that has to bring in. So what we started across is in the manufacturing setup, probably what has happened is all machinery was old, very old. Now, is there any new investment that can bring in? So what is the change that is required? But can we also use parallel tools which can improve the efficiencies, improve the yield management, improve the efficacies of the medicines? Because if you see any drug development, it takes 10 to 15 years. But during pandemic, it has reduced to 1 year. Now, how has it happened? Because there is petabyte of data that has to be computed for any genes or any molecules that has to be studied across. So we'll have to gather all the data and see how it can be utilized, cross-utilized further. So I think another area of our focus was research and development, taking out what are the critical medicines that are required 10 years down the line or which is required by the whole human race. So we look at those drugs rather than the general medicine aspect of it. So our focus is on those critical care, acute care medicines where you will see Wockhardt in the coming days. And we were the first company who started the export from India pharmacy when it was very less pharma depth in India. So as Ashwin said, in the supply chain space, we are looking at a lot of AI ML tools which has to be, as a control tower, we are looking at to develop, starting from the inventory aspect of it, procurement aspect of it, and the demand forecast in terms of distribution across. So we are looking at how to bring in just-in-time kind of inventory. And also specifically, we are also coming up with something which is medicine which is only specific to you. It is regenerative. So it is something like my own. It is your own medicine that would be only made for you. So that's another area which we are looking at. So multiple areas we are aiming in terms of transformation to ensure that we all run together as a team and reach the goal where our revenues are impacting and the customer experience is also impacted. It is not, so probably down the line, if you see, you were only see when you have fever, crocin has to be given. But suddenly, during pandemic, it became Dolo. So, is it only the medicine which, and India has abused a lot of medicines, Indians, because we don't go to doctor and we just buy it. So we'll have to look at also the things where there is a medicine which you are taking which has become resistant to it. So although we are also concentrated on pharmacovigilance and things where how can we touch base the customer and give the knowledge to them that please do not take, these are the adverse effects which will come and these are the side effects. So as general, because of Google and all those areas, people are very, very intelligent. They, as soon as the medicines are prescribed, they go to Google and search, what is this medicine for? So I think overall the scenario has changed and all across things have improved in terms of using tools. Like digital twin we are using in manufacturing, in the drug development. We are using the yield output where we are using all the vision analytics side of it, AI, ML. So all these tools are being used, but it has been used judiciously where the output can be fast and it can mature enough to different maturity levels in coming days.
Yeah, thanks. No, it's interesting you mentioned personalized medicine, right? Because we were talking to a bunch of genomic startups who are trying to do personalization on the drug development side. And one of them was mentioning that metformin, which is the most commonly prescribed drug in India for diabetes, which is the world's capital, I mean, India is the world's capital in terms of incidences of diabetes. 50% of patients or 50% of diabetics do not even react to metformin. And that's the first line of defense that any diabetologist prescribes. So getting to a level of personalization through multiple means is, I think, even on the medicine side, a very important transformational step. But I have a more specific question for you. And if you were to think about three broad buckets, which is supply chain and efficiencies around that, compliance, which you brought up, traceability and other things like that, and then customer facing, maybe EMR and personalization and some of that, in these three broad buckets, would you be able to tell us where you're spending more effort, time, money? Where do you see impacts being greater today, and how is that going to change tomorrow? Is that going to be any different, or are these three like equally sort of focus areas that you look at?
Yes. So probably like we talk about personalized medicine, every customer wants to know what is the journey, how it has started and how it has come to me. Now, how do I authenticate this is my drug, this is made for me? So we are trying to bring in NFT and blockchain kind of technology where starting from your journey where your personalized drug has started making, you will see each step and there's audit trail for complete, starting from the lab interaction to the manufacturing interaction to the logistic interaction which reaches you. I think that is the complete focus for us.
Got it, thank you. Rohit, back to you. You have consulted with various firms in various sectors, right? And also the government as well in terms of helping on some of these efforts. Where do you see India and the activity on the whole digital transformation within India Inc. as compared to perhaps some of our global counterparts? Where do we stand? And would love to hear a couple of cases where you helped, where you saw the biggest impact. Any details that you can share with the audience will be great.
I think what you mentioned it earlier as well, like digital transformation spend is not going down, it's going up. And if you look at Asia Pacific and especially the Indian subcontinent, it's actually growing 25–30% year on year. So it's not slowing down, it's a high priority for, let's say, multinational corporations that are operating, but also Indian headquartered organizations. So I think across sectors, there's a lot of activity. It's only going to get higher, it's only going to get more important. Now, in terms of your next question, which was in terms of what's the difference between, let's say, India and the approach in other countries, my observations are that in India, I think we are a lot more entrepreneurial, we're a lot more risk-taking, and we also have this opportunity to leapfrog and learn from mistakes that have been made in, let's say, the developing countries, because a lot of organizations in India are now just starting their journey in terms of their digital transformation or evolution to, let's say, a new state. And that's a tremendous opportunity for us, really kind of break some of the norms and the paradigms that have already existed to drive like some new experience. And we operate in a completely different market. And there's also a lot of chatter around the next big innovation is going to come out of markets like India, because the problems that we have to solve and the scale at which we have to solve it, the world hasn't seen it. So I think India is in a wonderful opportunity to actually take a leadership position in the world, because the way we use technologies or the technologies we create or the use cases that we're going to solve is then going to go across to other parts of the world, because they need that scale. None of these solutions have been designed for scale. Probably in countries like India and China is where it's going to happen. And so India is on this next frontier where it's up to us to basically dominate and win the game.
Sure. Any specific examples you can pick from all the work that you've done where you think there's been massive impact?
Yeah, I mean, I can't actually say a lot because, we're backed by NDAs and stuff, and I don't want to get sued for saying something in public. But I mean, Thoughtworks also does a lot of work, like you mentioned, in the financial services space, in the BFSI space, and we've been able to drive value, like Manish mentioned, it's all about value. And when we work with our clients, them being corporate clients, or even when we work with the government, the definition of value changes, but it's all about value. And when you look at, in the corporate sense, you talk about revenues or bottom lines, you can use digital technologies to basically make a 1,400, 1,500% improvement, because that's not possible manually. And when you talk about some of the things that we are talking about now, like UPI or ONDC, that kind of scale is only possible technologically, where you want to have massive amounts of citizen engagement. And that's the value there, is that engagement with the citizens, which probably the government by itself cannot deliver that impact. Private organizations by themselves also cannot deliver that impact, because that size of investment cannot be made. But the value then is in helping the government create that ecosystem that lets multiple players step in and create that kind of impact. So the value there is measured in different sense.
Sure.
But that's the value that technology can create for you.
Sure. So from let's say value creation and how it is created, I think as we mentioned earlier, execution is a big thing, right? So Commander Varun, if I can, I mean, there are many things to think about, the whole infrastructure side of it, where the data is hosted, cloud, security, data privacy aspects, which was touched upon earlier. What do you think are the key ones from an execution standpoint, let's say the lookout areas as these journeys are undertaken within enterprise, and what would you recommend there?
So first, I think that digital transformation is about business and how a business can become more efficient, more effective, and how more customer-centric is what the digital transformation in business context is all about. While you have asked me a very technical question on about the security and cloud and various other data privacy infrastructure, I would start by saying that the first priority should be the customer engagement with any business or whatever you are taking down to the market. The second thing is your own processes, your HR, your culture, how you bring in the change management. And the third is, of course, the technology. Technology is just a tool, an enabler, and technology has to be kept like that. We often confuse digital transformation with digitalization. Like if I get a cloud solution or if I get an AI solution, that is just about digitalization. But digital transformation is a more deeper and broader term, which has got business context and strategic context. Amazing kind of technology is available at present, but the technology keeps on changing. What was very relevant 10 years or 5 years back might not be relevant. If you see S&P 500 index, average life of a company earlier was 50, 60, 40 years, but now it is 10 years, 15 years. Why? Because the technology has changed, the whole business has changed, the customers' requirements have changed. And if you have not kept up the pace with how the environment is changing, how the ecosystem is changing, then you are probably going to be out of business very soon. So that is the crux of digital transformation. A lot of technologies are available and they let you do business at an astounding pace, whether it is cloud. Cloud, I think, is one of the central things about digital transformation, because cloud gets in the flexibility, the resiliency, immense amount of compute and storage data. It can immediately get you onto the business world, and you sitting at your home can spin up a EC2 instance or 1,000 instances in a minute, and can do a lot of things which was not possible because you had to procure the hardware, start the thing, but you can now hit the road running. And so is the other technologies also, like AI, ML, big data. Big data is one of the bigger things, because how you analyze data and how you make sense of data and use it for your business is one of the important things. But with data also comes data privacy, because privacy is another very big thing, and you have to be compliant. So to mesh up all these things, it is very important that the cyber security and the data privacy comes into play in the very beginning. And it is not, as we say in cyber security, it is baked into the process and not bolted on later. Because once you try to bolt it on later, you might be able to achieve 1 or 2 compliances here and there, but your product will not be safe. Your system might not be safe. There is a McKinsey study which I was reading that only about 8% of the digital transformation in a big enterprises are successful, and most of them do not end up being a success or are as successful as they wanted to be initially. That is because the implementation, there are various challenges of how you employ the technology, but more importantly, it is about how you undertake the change management in your business, how you define your business process, how you go about transforming your business. I again reiterate that all the technology and the associated security and privacy is all a tool and an enabler, and it is more on the strategic sense that digital transformation has to be seen in that light.
Sure,
that's it.
Thank you. And I think you touched upon a few of these technologies which are emerging, so let me go to you, Nilesh, on some of these, and you've been tracking Web3 and blockchain. Of course, data and the massive amount of data and how it can be leveraged now, either through AI or ML, and even the whole space of automation, which could be a function of this, but even otherwise RPA and all of that. These are emerging technology trends. Going ahead the next few years, as enterprises undertake digital transformation journeys, which of these, let's say, technology blocks do you think will become very, very key drivers to anybody's digital transformation journey?
Well, I can say that I've got few solutions. What I was, when I was hearing Manish and my fellow colleague Varun, security, definitely it's licensed to operate for any enterprise or for any organization, so that's very important. Traceability, as you were mentioning from the supply chain standpoint, and you are bringing blockchain, I would say that it's a brave call. So traceability, how you track it, more transparent in the supply chain space. Blockchain solves that problem. Yeah, I mean, that tops the chart when it comes to all the available technology what we have. So when you look at Web 1, 20 years back, when it was just a read kind of environment, and there was no write or there was no control on the web data, I'm talking about 20 years back, and then Web 2 started, when you have the liberty to write, you have the liberty to visualize certain things on the different space on the Web 2, and now we are seeing the Web 3. It's more like a creator economy. So you have your own control on your data. So you have read, you have functionality, or write, create, and control. So read, write, create, and control, these are the 4 aspects what you see on Web 3. Again, it's a tip of the iceberg when it comes to the blockchain. So these are the areas where corporate or enterprises should start looking at how we can bring the transparency, how we can bring the traceability, and I think, carbon footprint, which are increasing day by day. And there are multiple global agreements which are happening at a global level not just the corporate enterprise are involved, even the specific governments across the globe are involved into this to, basically reduce the carbon emissions and, have the focus more on the carbon credit side also. And blockchain solves that problem. So again, as I said that, as of now, we are in a beautiful phase. We missed the bus at the time of Web 1. We missed the bus at the time of Web 2. And as Rohit was also mentioning some time back, that this is a beautiful phase for India. India have gained the momentum. I think by 23 end, few of the governments like Telangana, and if you look at Tamil Nadu's recently signed a few of the projects which are based on the purely Web3 or the metaverse side, somewhere close to 1.2, 1.3 trillion. That's the space they want to insource and outsource both. So it's not just the service nation is going to be. It's going to be more product nation now. So the transformation of service to product is going to happen in India. So I'm quite bullish about it. Because of the emergence of the new technology, in addition to what we have, the robotics or the AI, ML, or the cloud, definitely. I mean, from the service side, yes, we are definitely doing extremely good in that area. All the hyperscalers are here. We have AWS, GCP, Oracle, and Azure. So multiple data centers they have opened because the kind of quantum what we have in India. But if you look GCCs also, like global capability centers. We have close to 500 plus global capability centers, not just for the Fortune 500, but yeah, I mean, medium enterprises also globally, their GCCs are also here. So from the innovation standpoint, yes, people will look at our GCCs also, people will look at the enterprises also back in India to emerge on these technologies, be at forefront when it comes to the new disruption what we are witnessing right now. So India is definitely got the advantage. We should not miss the bus right now. Otherwise, the economy, the plan what we have, so 5 trillion we are already looking at. I would say that we've already reached 5 trillion economy, right? There are so many unknown business. A lot of startups, people are already building their products. They have the agility. So I also have the similar kind of request or suggestion or whatever I can make it here that the agility is very important in enterprises also. And then last not the least, one of the example I want to quote that, I was having a conversation with one of the CIO and I said that, who's your biggest competitor? And he said the person who's running a startup in 2 BHK house in Powai in Bombay or somewhere in Koramangala in Bangalore, right? So they have the more agility. They can be more agile in terms of building their product, launch their product and do the business. So that's one thing which enterprises should definitely look at, the agility, the speed of execution, the value-driven output. So that's one thing where we need to, we need to upscale because most of us are from the enterprise and here in the hall also I could see that a lot of faces from the enterprise side.
Glad you didn't leave my set of community out. I was going to just jump in and say startups in India.
Oh yes, and that's a big industry. I would say that's
you called them out. Yeah.
That's the industry itself now, right? So we all used to say that the government, public sector, enterprise on the private note, but startup is almost equal here, right? So we should definitely look forward to, so it's in the race. The competition is there among all these 4 or 5 different entities. So my key message is that agility is very, very important, and we should have the purpose-centric approach, value-driven approach. So that's the key message to me, to you, and to all of you. So that's all from my end. Thanks, Ashwin.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you so much. We may have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions, perhaps, from the audience for the panel, if there's something.
Hello, myself Ravi, representing Bharat India Limited. I refer to ONDC. See, now a lot of branded companies starting bringing their own e-commerce website. So after success seeing in Amazon and Flipkart, their product selling good, traction of sales, like maybe HLL or maybe Dabur, they have already introduced their own e-commerce. Now coming to ONDC, right? Now these companies, FMCG, sell their products through the retailers. With the help of ONDC, retailers themselves bring e-commerce. Then whether the brands, right, like Should they have their own e-commerce in the future?
Thank you for your question. Please sit. So the whole idea of ONDC is to be inclusive and to get in all the buyers, all the sellers who are not able to come onto the mainstream and can afford an app or an application of themselves. So that is from the small sellers perspective. But your question, I understand, is from the perspective of the big players. So the big players, there is a difference with big players. Big players have some advantage as of now, in my understanding. Big players have economies of scale. Big players have shareholders' money. Big players have immense data about customer consuming habits, which they have gathered over last 5-10 years of operation. So ONDC is not going to be a level playing field maybe for the small seller initially, but ONDC will eventually rise up because the big players are going to come onto ONDC. In my understanding, while you say Amazon or Flipkart, they are very happy. They have their customer base is increasing. ONDC is just starting up. But what ONDC brings to the table is inclusivity and open networks. And we do hope and we understand that all the big players are also in talks with the government to get onto the bandwagon, and we will eventually see how it comes. When it comes, it is going to be important because the growth is going to be dependent on that. But as of now, as you rightly pointed out, it is not going to be a level playing field from the very first day onwards.
Rohit,
it is not.
You want to add something, it looks like?
Yeah, I think this is also the change in mindset that is needed that we talk about now. A lot of the traditional strategy thinking we have, and whatever we've done it with a zero-sum kind of mentality, or you have to win-win. Now, what's happening with all of these networks that are being created or ecosystems that will get created, it's less about a zero-sum game and it's more about how do you share value and you create partnerships and you create ecosystems. So what's going to happen with a lot of these networks is it's not that the big players are going to lose any value. Overall, the whole pie is going to increase. And that's why the bigger players will also make more money themselves. So it's not about should we or should we not. It's about, of course, you definitely should become part of that ecosystem. You should not cut out your own e-commerce channels, but then how are you actually helping make the pie bigger? So if you see what's happened with UPI, UPI has opened up a whole ecosystem where
it's a win-win for everyone.
Where startups have also jumped in, startups have created value. And if you look at the transaction revenue that a lot of the banks are making, they're making more revenue from transactions because of UPI, right? Because they have to provide and support the ecosystem with infrastructure. So I think overall there's a lot of value for everyone. I don't think we should take this mentality of should we or should we not. It's just that partnership and the ecosystem mentality is a different style of how you orchestrate business models. Definitely new business models will come into play. But then how creative can you get to create those new business models and become part of the ecosystem? I think that's the larger question.
Great. If the organizers allow me one more question.
We can.
Here in front.
And any one of you can pick to answer this. I see the user behavior changing very, very fast as an individual. We as an organizations, are we changing equally fast? Because, there's a lot of debate that how do we change and how fast can we change? But are we really changing that fast?
I can answer for this if you guys allow me. Yeah, it's a very interesting question in terms of changing the user behavior. If you look at, I'll just slightly go back, one step back on the technology behavior side also. When we are doing a lot of cloud transformation, now we are in a digital transformation side also. Now, upscale or downscale the cloud consumption is a big challenge when it comes to digital transformation. It's still a challenge. There are ways, there are mediums, there are changes which are required on the overall CXO dashboarding or the monitoring side when it comes to the technology monitoring, or how we accept or adapt those changes and how much we are agile in terms of addressing those challenges on the kind of collaboration between digital and cloud side. So I was just trying to give you the context here. Now coming back to the people mindset. So as someone was telling that, change management is very, very important in the organization. User behavior, how we take digital transformation in our organization, if I've understood your question correctly. The other part is that the reward-based mechanism, right? As of now, when it comes to the legacy or traditional side of the ecosystem, what we are in right now, so accessibility, if I am a user and accessing certain things, I do not get incentivized or rewarded into that. But when we uplift the reward mechanism for the users also who's accessing the data, so that reward will definitely motivate and encourage me to adapt certain things which are happening right now. So it's not, the reward should not be restricted or limited only to the enterprise side. So the normal user, end user also, who's accessing the information, or who's accessing the data, or who's using the social media platform or the e-commerce platform, someone was mentioning that there's small players, how they are going to get the benefit out of it. So apart from the monetary side, I would say that the extra incentive or the reward should also be given to the user community, and that would definitely encourage or motivate for people to, to have the right acceptability. So that's my take, if I've answered you correctly. Thank you.
You can definitely add. You were saying something.
Yeah. So see, I think we as consumers, we open up, accept some cookies at some point of time. I think that is where the organizations are reading the customer behavior, what they are doing. So especially in e-commerce, Amazon, what you see. So you look at one and you will see all the options towards it. So I think that's the first example which gives us how agile we are in terms of showcasing the products which customer wants. So maybe you want to just go away with it, you cannot. You will push until you reach there.
Personalization,
So,
yes.
So I think we can continue this conversation in the hallway. I hope all of us will be there for a while to answer any other questions we haven't been able to, but we're way over time, so I'll close the session here. Big thank you to the panelists, to the people who are asking questions, and the audience for a patient listening. Thank you.